strategy. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
And I am Anthony C.A. and a pleasant welcome to this evening edition of our program, The Hour of Politics. And you know, you would rather have me to talk about the things bordering on Liberian politics. In this case, our president, Mr. George Weah, is now in the U.S. He has been traveling for over 36 days out of the country. And based on his schedule, he is now in the U.S. He has been here since the 3rd of this month. One of the major reasons he came to the U.S., is to address the U.S. African Summit to which he's been invited. A little about that event. The U.S. African Summit is a summit that was called by the President of the United States on behalf of the U.S. government to engage African leaders. The United States invited 50 heads of states of Africa to participate in this African summit. The African summit called for by the U.S., I believe, started with President Barack Obama. The first of its kind in recent time, if I'm not mistaken, was in 2014 when Barack Obama hosted heads of states of Africa who were selected to attend that event. What is the United States doing this? So many reasons, among which the U.S. wants to be seen as a partner of the continent of Africa. We know Africa has so much to offer the world in terms of talent, in terms of youthful population, in terms of natural resources. Africa has a whole lot to offer. The reason Africa, for the most part, has been lagging behind other, continents, is because African leaders are yet to get their acts together, and that is why Africa remains behind. Be that as it may, Africa has been the continent that presents this opportunity for those who call themselves the world powers to show their supremacy in terms of politics or global politics. And we know that the U.S. has been lacking behind, for so long. So Obama started to engage African leaders. And let me say this so quickly. If there is any Western nation that is benefiting from Africa in terms of its useful population, that is the United States of America. The United States of America has more Africans here who are contributing immensely to the economy of the U.S. My state of Minnesota is one example. There are a good number of Liberians who are working in the health sector in the great state of Minnesota. So if Liberians who are in the health sector should decide to go on a national holiday, we will have serious trouble here in Minnesota, for example. So that cut across, some other sectors as well. But be that as it may, on the overall scale, Africans from Africa here in the United States, across, the states, they are contributing to the U.S. economy. Even when you talk about education, the last time I think I checked, Africa has one of the highest graduating population in the United States. That is a true statement. And when these Africans acquire knowledge, they stay here for the most part and contribute to the economy of the U.S. They are providing, they are occupying so many positions here in the U.S. If the working population of Africa should decide maybe in a year or two to return to Africa, it will have a serious impact on the United States. So that is the economic aspect of it. So America is benefiting, but that America has not been able to make significant investment in Africa other than to have a political interest of trying to show that they are the world power and all of that. So America has come to recognize that China is engaging Africa in a much more meaningful way in terms of investment in infrastructure. Chinese businesses are in Africa for the most part compared to U.S. businesses. So, and as a result, it is connecting African to the Chinese. And in Liberia, for example, you see a lot of business will say, well, I'm going to China to get my goods. Almost everything that is being sold in Liberia, and it's now, Liberia is not an exception, even the U.S. included, almost all the things are coming from China. And so Africans are seeing that, and they are looking in that direction. China is also investing in Africa heavily. Now, the last time I checked, when I was doing my research today, China has set aside $4.3 trillion. $4.3 trillion China has set aside for investment into Africa. Some of the investments, they are through grants, projects that, giving loans, and China is tapping into the natural resources of Africa. And so so Africans are seeing the Chinese as an economic power. Africans are seeing the Chinese as world power. The same can be said about France. France, in particular, is having a yearly African summit with African leaders. China does the same thing, and the U.S. has been behind. And so U.S. that sees itself as this world power to more like try to turn its back to this continent of Africa that has so much potential. The U.S. has decided to go back to what President Obama has started to engage African leaders and to engage Africa, because there's so much Africa has to offer the world, just as other continents in the world have so much to offer the world. And so that is the goal here. In my opinion, it's more about America trying to show that it cares, that it remains the world superpower, and that it can do whatever China is doing, that it can do whatever France may be trying to do, that it can do whatever even what you call Russia is doing. So it is about America trying to cement her global power in Africa and among Africans, and that is more so worth that. Now it's left with Africans now, or African leaders now, to see how they engage the Americans, to benefit, for Africa to benefit whatever America has to offer, if America is doing this, as a partner. But the main fact here is that America may be trying to treat African leaders of these African countries as partners. We are not partners, because now you invited African leaders, to the United States to engage them in terms of partnership, energy, security, and so many areas they can talk about. Now the emphasis is on, the youth, as I was trying to tell you earlier. So what do? You set aside $55 billion, and then what you're going to do? You're going to give it to Africa in grant. You're going to go to Africa in what? As loans. What is the goal here? So this is America trying to say, well, we'll give you henna, because if Africans were partners, Africans should be able to be at the table to see what they can offer America in exchange for what America has to offer Africa. But it is more than likely it is Africa that's going to be at the receiving end here, because if you look at it, America is getting one of the most valuable things that it would have loved to get from Africa in the first place, which is its youthful population that is here. And America has been able to do it through programs. For example, the DV program, that is how I came here. And I've been here for over 15 years now, and I'm working and contributing to the U.S. economy. I work in the airline industry. I've been in the area there for 10 solid years. U.S. travel now, even despite COVID, has picked up. And so that is just to give you a sense that America is benefiting. That is why America is not showing more interest in investing in Africa, because if America should do that, more than likely Africans will get comfortable in Africa and stay, and then America will be missing out on the huge workforce that it needs right now, because America population is much more older now. There are so many people that are in nursing homes. There are so many people that have retired. For them to get their social security, checks, it will require active working people to contribute to that. Where can America get that working population right now? America is tapping into Africa to do that. So they're doing that through programs. They're doing it, by getting visas through families-based immigration. You send for your father, you send for your mother, you send for your daughter. They come, they go to school, they reach working age, they get a job. America makes money. So, folks, if America is actually serious about engaging Africa to do so much good, because doing good is the right thing to do, then America should be honest and sincere about it. The last time I checked, the airport that we have in Liberia now, and if America wants to do this, America should use Liberia as an example to prove that it actually wants to do so much good in Africa, that the world now is a global village, that we are interdependent no matter how rich or poor a country might be. We saw that with COVID. America paid a huge price, even though this pandemic started in China. It traveled to America. Americans were dying in numbers. Many of you followed the news during the time of COVID. And, but who were the people that were providing the care? Liberians, other Africans in the health sector were providing care. These are the people that were working overtime, and some people were staying away. So we are interdependent on each other. So if America actually wants to look at the war in that way, then they have to do much more. And if America wants to start, to do what they're trying to preach here, Liberia is that place they should start. The founding of our country, Liberia, the history is so simple. People who got freedom from America decided to go to a country called Liberia. The U.S. government provided money through the American Colonization Society that led to the establishment of our country. You look at our flag, you look at the names of some of our cities, the names of some of our streets. You know the history. James Monroe is the president in whose name Monrovia has been named, and so on and so forth. So if America really want to do so much good in Africa, let America start with Liberia. Look at the airport that we have. It's good to emphasize this. That money, I think $55 million were given to the Liberian government, I understand, as a grant for us to get the little terminal that we have now. But way back during the World Wars, the Rabat International Airport was used by the Americans because it was a shorter distance and strategic position for them to engage the Japan and other countries that they were fighting. They used that place. But does America not know about that airport? America has known all along. What has America done? America has not done anything. Now, I'm now a full year. It is not America's responsibility to build airport for all. We did not build the airport and seaport and all the infrastructures here. Americans themselves did that. So it is our responsibility to develop Liberia. But if you see us as a partner and you have so much, why can't you share in a meaningful way? America has so much money. Look at how much money America has spent just right here in Ukraine. This is a war that is less than 1 year. America has spent over $55 billion every day in Ukraine. Look at the war that took place in Liberia that ravished everything. Look at the history of America and Liberia. What has America done other than giving up peanuts? And some of you don't want to hear that. What have they done? We have massive challenges when it comes to roads in Liberia. Electricity is a challenge, right? It took China to give us $55 million to do that, to build our airport. We have been crying. America knows the embassy is there. They see the roads. Have they helped us to build all our? Liberia is a tiny country. If we can get our highways built, if we can get our seaports done, if we can get our airport done, and from Atlanta to America, I think it's about 10 hours flight. Imagine how much good it would do. And so, folks, this U.S. African summit is more about America trying to show that it cares, that it remains the superpower. America, in fact, is trying to play catch up when it comes to engaging Africans and African leaders. America has been benefiting immensely from Africa, even if you go back to the days of slavery. Slaves that were taken out of Africa, brought to America, they built this country. So America is a good country. I love this country. But if America wants to actually be sincere and and be the generous nation that it projects itself to be, it should stop giving us peanuts because America has the money. Let America do it. But I maintain it is not America's responsibility. But if you want to do something, you should do it honestly because it is the right thing to do. So, having said that, giving you a little history and what America is up to here, let us talk about President Weah's address at the summit today. I listened to so many people are listening to President Weah delivering or reading his statement there. Almost everybody agree that in terms of his presentation or reading of the speech, President Weah did excellently well. That's what some people believe. Because if you look at his previous presentation, a previous reading, and you compare it with this, some people see significant improvement. I will agree with that. I think it was a better reading by the president. The transition was okay for me. So that I would say, yes, that I would say. But let's look at the substance of the speech. President Weah, he was speaking in line with the goal of the summit. It was more about partnership, and the emphasis was on you. So he tailored a message in that direction. This is, a forum intended for the leaders to be rhetorical, on the subject matter and to speak to the thing of the summit. And so would have loved President Weah to make an argument, in his presentation that if America is ready to engage Africa, America must start with Liberia. Yeah, I would have loved for him to tailor his message in that direction and connect it, to the entire Africa. That if America is actually serious about this, they should start with Liberia because it all started with Liberia. It all started with Liberia. And every African country knows that, politically speaking, I want to use political language, Liberia is more like a stepchild, just for the sake of the presentation, it's just like a stepchild of Liberia. All right. So, Liberia is just like a stepchild of America, to put it right. So, has the U.S. done enough in Liberia? If the U.S. is trying to care about Africans and Africa, it's talking about investment. How much investment has America made in Liberia? Even when Liberia has come from the war, how much money did America give? How much money? The whole world came together and they raised money for a country that experienced a civil war that lasted for 15 years or more. The whole world came together and raised just $500 million for Liberia. Compare that to how much money being raised for other countries when they experience similar devastation and destruction and mindlessness and brainlessness in their country. Ukraine is just one example. A war that is not even a year. America is spending, more than 55 billion, sending money, sending guns, sending food, and sending everything. American businesses, American philanthropists, they are all there. They're giving everything to the Ukraine. America is the most supportive government or country behind the Ukrainians for them to survive. If you compare the history of America and Liberia, and you compare the history of Ukraine and America, you will agree with me, America has so much ties to Liberia compared to Ukraine. And yet, America has shown that they care for the Ukrainians more than they care for the country Liberia. Having an embassy, giving of 1 million here and there, it's not going to solve Liberia's problem. We are challenged beyond measures. We don't have the capacity as a country to raise significant revenue to engage in the massive, infrastructural projects that we need. And maybe it's on our leaders too, who have not been able to come to America with a plan to solicit and to raise significant revenue to engage in development. I put all that on our leaders and less of it on America, because America is only responsible for America, and Liberians should be responsible for Liberia. But if America thinks it cares and he wants to engage Africa and Africans, if America will not start with Liberia to prove that they are serious about partnership that benefits Africa and its youth, then America is not serious. Then it's just lip service. For $55 billion, it's just a drop in the bucket, and America must start with Liberia, and they should do that now. I wish President Weah has tailored his message in that direction in a more powerful and profound way. Since he had that platform, the Secretary of State was there, and so I believe he had the ears of the White House and also the people of America. So that is all I have to say about President Weah's speech. And before I open the phone lines for you to contribute here quickly, let us pivot now to the town hall. Let us pivot now to the town hall. But before we go to the town hall, let me take a little break, and I will be right back. And we will be talking about the town hall so briefly. I will just use 10 minutes or less to talk about the town hall, and then the phone lines will be. In fact, the phone lines are open, and you look in the scrolling text below. You will see 605-313-6004, and you can call now and get in line so that we can get your take. We want to know, what do you make of President Weah's address to at the African the U.S. African Summit? What do you make of President Weah's address, and what do you make of the whole idea of the U.S. inviting African countries to engage them as partners? I mean, does it even make sense? What is America up to here? Does Africa stand to benefit anything? I just want to get your take. And then the local politics of it all. At the town hall, President Weah telling the Liberian people that he is the best. He is the best Liberia can have right now. Does he have a point? And also, he went to the day-to-day Facebook politics talk. This man trying to be, what you call, practical. Is that the term for it? Is that good English? We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am your humble servant, Anthony C., always bringing you the top political issues and doing a little bit of analysis there so that people can get the what they call the puzzles of politics as the politics unfolds in our country, Liberia. And so welcome. Let us now talk about the town hall. And folks, I have already informed you the number to call. That phone line is open. Let me put it right here, 605-313-6004. I also have it here, as you can see, on Facebook, on YouTube. We have it right there. It is your time to call now, to speak. When you call, I want to know, what do you make of the whole idea of, U.S. African Summit? Is the U.S. up to any good here, or is it for her own good? And, and I also want to know, what do you make of President Weah's address? And I also want to get your take on the town hall, that the president was able to address. He made some remarks there. And so let us get to the town hall, and I'll be so brief here, so that you can have the opportunity to speak so quickly here. So President Weah was at the town hall that we heard about. We were told it was open to all Liberians. That should be the case. I hope that was the case. I hope no one was stopped. But be that as it may, It's obvious it might have been dominated by seditions. It is their right to do so. This is the president. They have put their life on the line to support. We all need support in whatever we do. And President Weah is lucky to have people in his corner who support him. And that is why he must and must do the best for our country. He should exhaust every strength in him to do the best for our country, because all across Liberia, all across the world, he has people who believe in him and still supporting him despite of all we know that happening in the country, the huge economic challenges. People are suffering in Liberia. That is a fact. The president himself agrees. Everybody in the government agrees. Liberians are suffering more than they have experienced even in previous administration, and yet these people support him. That is why he should find all the reason to do good. But is the president doing good enough? Some people will think yes, but I believe he's doing his best, except that this best of President Weah is not good enough. It is not good enough, and I don't know when it will ever be good enough, but that is the case. So let's talk about the DC route. The President Weah injected himself into the day-to-day politics of Liberia. And he went after those who were in power for 12 years and that they were only using blueprint and they never did the work. And they were talking about, well, that's the process. But when it came to him, they are not considering the fact that development is a process. They want development to be automatic. Does the president have a point there? That is the argument President Weah is making. Say, look, these people, when they were in power, they had 12 years. What did they do? They gave you blueprint. They said everything was a process. Now I'm here and they are telling me nothing is a process. Everything has to be automatic. The president is injecting himself into the politics there and into the debate. What do you make of that? And he went on to say, look, I'm the best. I am the best. President Weah is very active on Facebook. He even injected the whole thing about Facebook. Everybody on Facebook, they are crying. He even brought the issue of the rally, but he used the word protest for the most part. And he said, well, it is their right that he believes in democracy. And, as a leader, that's what should be allowed. He's a peaceful man. That is why he even took the job of peace ambassador on Ellen Johnson's salary despite, disagreement politically. He worked with Ellen Johnson's salary. He does not see the need why people are protesting. He argued that during their time, so much harm was being done to them as a political party, the CDC politically, and yet they found the courage to work with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Was the president honest or was he disingenuous over there? Because CDC was so aggressive and relentless in protesting. CDC protested. They went to the U.S. embassy. They had casket on their heads. They had honor clothes, purportedly for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. These guys were disrespectful. They insulted everybody. The likes of what's his name? The current speaker, Buffer Chimber, he was so insultive. We know folks in the CDC, they were aggressive. They rain insult at nearly everybody. Even to this day, they continue to rain insult at some Liberians. President Weah even saying that what we have in Liberia is not opposition and calling the opposition hate position. And that these people, they have nothing to do when he was in opposition. When he was in private life, before becoming an opposition, he carried investment to Liberia. Some of you know President Weah investment, maybe, right? The sporting goods that he had, there was a sporting goods store that he had, Gym Professional. Maybe some of you know some of the businesses President Weah or the investment that he had taken to Liberia. He is making the argument that some Liberians, they don't have anything to offer Liberia other than just to be part of politics, and all they're doing now is to just come back to power. Does President Weah have an argument? So after he said all of that, he came to say, I am the best for Liberia as we speak now. And President Weah even injected the whole issue of young versus old, saying that it is our time, or suggesting that he is young, that he's a young man. I believe President Weah is about 54 or 55 now, if I'm not mistaken. And he is saying he's a young man. You're talking about some old people, someone there in their 80s. I think he was taking a job there. Joseph Imam Walker and maybe some other opposition leaders who are far above him or a little more above him in terms of age. And he is saying this is the time of the young people, encouraging young people to be able to come up and for leadership. But he said they should prepare the young people. And he said the preparation is done through the provision of free education. And many of you know, they said the University of Liberia and all community colleges in the country completely free for people to go to school. President Weah is injecting himself in the debate. He's saying they are building roads in Liberia. Liberia has been around for over 175 years. There are some things that have been done that have not been done before. He brought the issue of the sport park, and he's a man of peace. He doesn't want his family to be running around. And he's a rehab. And anybody wants to see him can go there. He will be there. He's not hiding. When he's not a rehab, he's at that sport park. So the sport park thing is so dear to the president and injected it. So by that, he's trying to make the case, well, these people said they are competent enough. Things like sport park, they couldn't do it in 12 years, and they say, I am nothing, I don't know anything. And he said that those who say that I don't know anything, they don't know me. And he said they don't know me because they don't know my heart. So President Weah injected himself into the discussion, and as a fan of politics and trying to find leaders who will be sober about where we are and where we need to go. I believe it starts with the conversation and people's ability to be able to engage the citizens. I mean, despite all of the things that are going on in Liberia, the president felt that he is doing something here. And it is you now, the Liberian people will be the judge. For us as the media, we are just the medium. We will provide the analysis. We give you the information as we receive it and pass it on to you, and you can be the judge. So of all of the things that's going on, the issue of accountability, corruption here and there, we're talking about voter registration now. It's being hotter. Census started on a chaotic level. People being sanctioned, people protesting for pay, prices on the increase, shortage of rice, shortage of gasoline sometime back. I mean, all of the things that happen in the country. And the president is saying he is the best Liberia can have now. And you, the voters, will be able to say that. But President Weah also said something that I like, and that once a Liberian is always a Liberian. And this is President Weah's credit. Through President Weah and his government, they were able to pass the dual citizen bill. Now, once a Liberian is always a Liberian is a serious and significant achievement that Liberian women now, irrespective of where they born a child, that child is a Liberian citizen. That has not been the case with the way that our laws has been. So that is a monumental achievement on the part of the president, and he spoke about that even at the U.S. African Summit. I think it was it was a good line for him to take. This is serious. If you born your child here in the United States, those of us who are here, your child is a Liberian. Your child can go back to Liberia and get a Liberian passport, and there will be no question asked because of the law that has been passed. We must all agree that President Weah has achieved it. And so he brought that, and stated that at the town hall, and also that at the U.S. African Summit. And I think that is something that he achieved, and he should blow his trumpet. And we should all recognize that the CDC has achieved that. And as a crusader of the truth, as a media institution, we must tell the truth when we know that is the truth. And so, folks, that is my own of take, and I will now open the phone line. I'm sure the phone line, I said, actually open. So we're going to go to the phone line now to give you all the opportunity to speak. We will give you all the opportunity to speak. So quickly, bear with me here. Let me get to my other screen here where I have the line open. Let me see quickly here. All right, let me see who are waiting. Okay, we have somebody on the line waiting. 2 persons, by the way. Let me see. Increase the volume here. All right, let's start with caller phone number ending in 0569. Your name and where you joining us from.
Thank you for me. Thank you for telling my name. I'm telling you, I'm calling from Connecticut.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your intro on the meeting and whatsoever President Weah has said. You know, first of all, America is late for what they're doing, but they're fortunate for now recognizing Africa. They took more from Africa than Africa had given. And now, anyway, they are coming in, but we're still getting, I get what you said, we're still telling them what we can get and what they can take from us now, because they are taking up. So that one of the point we shouldn't do it. You know, like we just go there and say, oh, we'll do the same thing over and over. We should tell them, if you want to build a house for us, how much you got for the house you can pay for us, and how much you gave or how much you're going to take for us. I think it's going to be a rightful thing. Then that comes to President Weah. You know, President Weah, what he said, I agree with President Weah what he said today for Liberia. I think he's the best. Our history, I say that, I can defend it because I was born in Liberia, I grew in Liberia, I went to school in Liberia. I went to SI, I came to the United States. What happened in Liberia today, and also in Liberia, because people always say, no more days, because I live in Liberia. I was not born in the city, I was born in the bush, I can say that. Our life was, to set it all was, you know, the moon, when the moon comes, or then we sell it, or our parents lap, I was still put oil and we sell it on it. What is in Lebanon City, the one time my parents worked for Yikipa, when I lived in Yikipa until then, I saw light. But not still like in Liberia today, I still like today in Liberia, I see road in Liberia, I see a lot of things going on in Liberia. My first time going to Monrovia, I reached in peace, I thought I was accomplished. Because I live in Yikipa, I live in like Lima, I thought I was accomplished. I went with Monrovia. The only place I went, I thought I Monrovia, I went Mama Point because I wanted to do my side test. But in short, I think let's get the president credit. That not everything is sweet in Liberia today is true. But let's give him the credit what he's doing in Liberia, what he's doing today, which I applaud him today, we give him the credit what he's doing. He don't have the country 175 years old. So things we're doing today, which have been done in Liberia. But today, we can pray God that everything will start from somebody.
Thank you.
And start from him, let's get the growth, and let's start from him today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. Let's go to the phone line. We have Mr. Michael Palmer on the line for the closure. He is co-host here program on point. Mr. Palmer, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anthony.
Okay.
So yeah, first, I wanted to make a comment about the whole China versus America relationship. So, you know, I feel like we see this China as coming into Africa, and we're not asking what do they want. I see us making the same mistakes that we made with the Americans when the Americans came. You know, what the Chinese are not just coming to Africa because they feel benevolent. No. Yeah, they might not need human resources, but they definitely need our resources. And they're looking for customers for their products. So they are coming, and if we don't ask what they want, and if we do not establish a fair trade, we'll see ourselves in the same situation. If you go to East Africa right now, most of the people in East Africa, that's what they complain about right now when it comes to the Chinese. When it comes to the Americans, look, let's be honest here. We have corrupted our system. The things we should have benefited from the Americans, we didn't because we yielded to corruption. We cannot expect the Americans to seek our benefit. We have to seek our benefit. Our elected leaders have to seek our benefit. If we sign 68 concessions and 66 under the 68 are corrupt, we cannot blame the concessors. We cannot blame the foreigners. We have to blame our own leaders. These are the people that have sold us. Um, and then if I may just comment on President Weah, it's amazing. Our president truly believes that Liberia is on the right footing. It takes a complete 180 of reality to see the amount of kids that are out of school. But he's talking about free education. He's talking about hospitals, but the hospitals have no doctors, they have no medicine, they have no equipment. He talks about roads, but the prime minister is in Turkey because of an accident on a road that was not properly fixed. You know, it's sad. I really thought the president knew what was going on in Liberia and maybe was just making bad decisions. After listening to the president tonight, I have come to the conclusion that the president does not know what's going on. He does not. And because of that, it's a very, very dangerous and sad situation. I'm hoping that the Nigerians who are truly struggling are seeing this, and when that time comes, they can make a better decision when it comes to our leaders. Thank you so much for the show.
Thank you, Mr. Pablo. And folks watching us, the phone line is open. You will see the number posted on Facebook. It's in the strolling text below. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. What do you make of the U.S. African Leaders Summit? President Weah addressed that summit today. What do you make of President Weah's address? And President Weah was in Washington, D.C., where there was the town hall at which Liberians have gathered to listen to their president. And President Weah, jumped into, our local politics. And he said a lot of things. And at the end of the day, he said, let me tell you something. I am the best. What do you make of President Weah's activities today? We want to hear from you to participate. The phone number to call, folks, is right there in the strolling text. But if you can't find it, yeah, it is 605-313-6004. Then you want to enter the code 791-403 # and you will have the opportunity to participate. So what we do that, I'll wait for you. Let me read some comments here. Also, evaluate how he was received. That is even more important. I can relate to that one. Start talking like another unserious and let's say blame passing Liberian. I don't know if he's talking to me. Sam Wallow writes, that is not a real comparison, Anthony. There are significant U.S. national security interests involved in the Ukraine war. This is a debate. Let people, let me see. Sam Wallow here again. That was a good sign today, answering that Secretary of State Blinken introduced President Weah today at the program. If reports are accurate, yes, he did introduce President Weah and welcome him to the microphone. That is correct. Sam Wallow again, it was probably not a coincidence that Biden hosted the French president on a state visit 3 weeks ahead of this summit. No hard feelings. He writes, Sam Wallow again, China, US, Turkey, and the Middle East are heavily invested in Africa. Does the US full court press? I don't know what you mean by full court press. Maybe the US is trying to do similar thing. Let me look for more comments here. Yeah, from Famula. I don't blame those stupid sedition and are living in the United States supporting this corrupt president. No, don't insult your friends. It is their right to support who they support. It is shameful on your part to call somebody stupid because they have made a decision. If you don't support the president, that is your right. But to act like the president calling other people hate position just because they disagree with him politically is just as shameful as it can be. Let us hear from Wallow here again. The caller they say one positive thing about the summit today. Let's hear from TYG. TYG, right? President Weah is far from perfect, but I give him credit for recognizing how paramount infrastructure is to a nation's development. Too many of our fellow Liberians think things will happen overnight. This person, right? Well, folks, the phone line is still open for you to call and participate. Let me read the other one from America. Send funds to Israel annually. Liberia has far more stronger ties than Israel. Now, Mama Liberia has leaders that no longer seek to be authoritarian. So America should fund Liberia the same. Yeah. So the person is making the point that, but America decides what is America's interest and which interest is more important to America. America can decide, well, Liberia is of no interest to us. Maybe we were that important during the war when they were using our F space there to fight their war. But even at that, what did they do for Liberia compared to what they are doing for, the state of Israel? The state of Israel is like an ATM machine. The U.S. giving pretty close to 80 billion United States that of free money to Israel. And my man Sam Waller is talking about U.S. national security interest. It's their money. They can spend it whatever way they want. All right. And I can't fault them for that. But to be giving Israel $800 billion, it does not have to be national security interest on it. All right, it can be partnership, it can be friendship, it can be historical ties. All right, at least are they even spending $2 billion in Liberia a year? Of course not, they're not doing that. But compare that to an $80 billion annually given to Israel free in the name of security. What national security interest has the U.S. in the Middle East anyway? When they will decide to carry war there and ravage other nations, is that what it is? Let me hear the national security interest in people, powerful leaders and powerful countries have beyond so-called national security interest, waste their country money on nonsense and cause destruction in other countries, and they have no remorse for it. They will carry on massacre in other countries, and they have no remorse for that. And you can't tell me about national security interest. Let me hear about the most important national security interest, in my judgment as an individual, is to invest in a nation's human capital so that their minds can be in the right place, so their minds can be developed, and those developed minds can carry on development. I think that's what we see with the words, highly educated nation for which individuals know how to start businesses and all that. Don't you think that would be the most important national security interest, other than to hide behind this spying of other nations? Most of these things are just gases and man-hate for other nations, and then nations would be spending billions of dollars that they could use to improve the quality of life for their own citizens, or maybe help other nations. I mean, look in Chicago, there are a lot of ghettos. Blacks are living in, so I mean, they to bear responsibility for their lives, but these are your citizens. Why don't you make the necessary investment? When you go in Liberia, it's the same thing. President Weah is talking about investment into young people. Look at the Zogos population. When he came to power, what did he do? Even talking about sports, the profession that he boasts of, that he was speaking, he said, well, I'm not a politician, I'm just an administrator who just want to do good. He also talked about, at the what you call the summit, he talked about being, that he did so much well in his career as a professional footballer. So football got you to where you are today. Look at sport development in Liberia. Look at sport development in Liberia. Even our national countermate, what has been the total amount committed to that process? All right, to improve young Liberians in the area of sports so that they can become like Weah, so that one of them can go to the World Cup. How much investment is being made in that direction? President Weah invested massively into properties just for himself. I mean, the money he used to build the condominiums, he could have used it to build maybe a mini studio, or what you call a sport academy where young people would be to be training every day and practicing. Why couldn't he have done that? So it's just a disservice that these people come and lecture us what they think they could do, but when they have the opportunity to do it, they will not do it anyway. So I mean, it's just a pity. If there is any place, anybody who agreed that we're expecting President Weah to do much more better would be in the area of sports. We can't even qualify for an African nation, and you are saying you are the best. You are the best for Liberia. Well, it's a debate. He said he is the best. That's how he sees it. That's why he thinks, and he has the people that believe that he is the best. You are the best, and poverty has increased. Hopelessness has increased in your country, and you are the best. Is that how you determine best? The last I checked, when I was in grade school, the one who scores the highest grade is always the best. President Weah is talking about, the people don't know me. When you knock me down, I ain't know you. I will go to Concord and this, that. This is what it is. Whether or not people who are struggling will still believe in him, and it is about winning victories. That's what he cares about. The presidency, governance, and leadership, folks, is about improving life through programs that will lead to the upliftment of people. That is what it is. It is not about you winning a trophy. It is not about you winning an election. He's not the first person to win an election in Liberia. The last time we checked, I think we have 103 members of our legislature. All of them won. So you're talking about 103 victories. And this is happening every election year, every general and presidential election year. 103 lawmakers have been elected. They've won. We have winners in Liberia. People winning political offices. Where are we? So if this thing is about how you win, is that what determines, that you are good? No, when it comes to political leadership, it's not about winning the office. It is about doing the work of that office to improve the living standard. Because the last time I checked, in a democracy, in any governance space for that matter, right, when one is elected by the people, the people call it the social contract. The people are giving you a piece of job to improve their human and material condition. And if that is not being improved, and it is evident in their faces, it is evident with the challenges, it's evident with just about everything around them, and you say you are the best, when the numbers suggest otherwise. Now, the living standard of Liberians have declined significantly. It has to decline significantly. There are so many people unemployed in Liberia compared to during Ellen Johnson Sirleaf time. And then the numbers are pointing in the wrong direction, and you say you are the best? So I don't know how the president came to this best thing, or is he measuring it by the sport park? Because he said he's there and thousands of Liberians are going there and everything. Is that what it is? Well, folks, I thought to bring you the issues, and to hear from you. Let me see if we have somebody else on the line. We have the man Aliyu Kamara. He is a Waka supporter, and President Weah threw a job as his guy. Like you, my brother, how you doing? Hold on, Aliyu. Let me increase the volume here. The folks did not hear you. Hold on. Let me increase the volume here. Let me make some adjustment here again. All right, Aliyu, go ahead.
For a minute there, I thought you forgot about the phone line. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's good to see you. The question here is President Weah's address, the whole idea of U.S. African Summit, and his remarks at the town hall. What said you, my friend, and what do you make of all of that?
First of all, let me just say, before I make my comment, let me just say something. I am an American citizen for several years now, and I'm a very proud American citizen. The decision to become a citizen of the United States of America was deliberate. I was never coerced or anything, and therefore I am a proud American citizen who will go to war for the United States of America, given that it has changed my life. My story can only be told because of the United States of America. However, it is very appalling when I hear people
talk about your Liberian citizenship too. Do you remain a Liberian citizen, my friend?
Oh, I was a Liberian citizen before George Weah brought a dual citizenship thing. I was a Liberian citizen. I was always going to in and out of Liberia and doing what I wanted to do in Liberia. Nobody was going to stop me anyway because I was born a Liberian and I would die a Liberian citizen.
Okay.
Nothing has changed.
So President Weah does not deserve any political credit yet for blowing the trumpet that he has given Liberians who acquire all citizenship, their Liberian citizenship. But does he not deserve any credit here? It's done legally now.
I think if you look at it, President Weah doesn't deserve any credit. Technically, before this pronouncement of citizenship or this document was signed in the House of Legislature, there was no law against, there was nothing really focusing on Liberians who had dual citizenship. You could go to Liberia and become a president of Liberia, nobody was really checking you out.
For example,
now you can be elected in the House of Legislature. You cannot even be elected as farmer chief or town chief in Liberia. Okay, before we did not have all of these stringent things. Most Liberians who serve and commonly serve in Liberian government still have American and European passports. So what George Weah did is put the spotlight on us to a point where now they can put their knees on our neck and at the same time pretend to be our friend. That's what it is.
All right.
Okay? That was the law, and other people make sure that we cannot go and run for senatorial position, or even if the senatorial position was an electable one, we can't be senatorial Monroe or even Kakata. So what good does George Weah do for us by marginalizing us, by reducing our natural born right as citizens of Liberia? Either way it turned out, like you heard me say before, either way it turned out, I went to Liberia, I bought what I wanted to buy. I went to court in Liberia and signed my name on documents. Nobody stopped anything. Anything I have in Liberia now, I had it before George Weah signed his document. You think I really care about that thing? I don't care about that.
Aliu, the law is the law. Even though you did that, you might have done that illegally. But let's go to the main issues here, my friend.
Okay, thank you. So, what makes me scared about Liberia is the level of insecurity Liberians have, is the lack of self-confidence Liberians have, is the way Liberians do not trust their own ability to be themselves and be able to take themselves out of any situation. When somebody uses the phrase, which has become a cliche, that Liberia is the child of the United States, or Liberia is this and that of the United States, this is appalling, my brother. When George Weah made that speech today, I listened to several analysts as they giving credence because George Weah decided to remind the United States of the history of Liberia in the United States. What they forget to know is that from time immemorial, Liberia's relationship with the United States have not really been important to the United States except the 1980s, when they had a Cold War, where America's interest against the USSR, so they had to use Samuel Doe at the time. But the United States never had any specific interest in Liberia. The United States' first interest in Africa came to where now is called Congo, the DRC, during the time of Patrice Emery Lumumba. All right? That was America's first interest in Liberia. That was after World War II. America never had any interest in Liberia. When you listen to some analysts say, oh, the United States bought Liberia. The United States never bought Liberia. The United States bought, not the United States, but the colonization bought a piece of land in Montserrat County. Not by Liberia. When you listen to a former deputy defense minister lie on social media that Liberia was bought, Liberia was never bought. Liberia was never bought.
No.
But my thing to this whole thing is, please, my people, you are a serving nation. Pick up your own bootstraps. Pull yourself by your own bootstraps. You have brain, you have 5 senses, you got 2 eyeballs, you got 2 hands. You go to the best of universities, you come up with colliding, similar colliding. Some of you are biochemists, some of you are physicists, some of you, what's about biochemists say? You know, I'm so cool. Let me tell you, I'm heartbroken that these people are so lazy mentally. These people are so lazy psychologically that they rather remain slaves. Somebody want to boast of Liberian history and Liberia's connection with the United States. It's not a good one. It has slavery implications. Even when Joe Biden is trying to avoid that history, when Joe Biden is trying not to acknowledge that history, Liberians are pumping that history and bringing that history up to raise surface that they were slaves. and they rather remain slaves. They are sons and daughters of their slave masters. Isn't that shameful to you, Anthony C.A.? When will these people realize that the thing that binds them in the United States is slavery and it's not a good history? When will they realize it?
Aliyu, may I hold you there? May I hold you there?
Uh-huh.
I think you're doing okay here with your historical narrative. History is not for your convenience, right? It is history. How bad it is or it was, it is history. It must be told, right? To equate that to Liberians being mentally lazy, yes, you pointed out something that people are saying not accurate, and you corrected that. Some people are saying America bought Liberia. That is a shameful, disjointed piece of history, because, like you accurately said, they just bought a piece of land in Montserrat there that they paid for, and that was it. Because they wanted the people they are caring,
It
to have
wasn't
a
even
place
in America. It was the American Colonization Society. It was a
yes,
private NGO.
yeah, of course, the U.S. government supported that. That is the fact. The U.S. government supported the American Colonization Society. All right, and that is a fact. I may be wrong, but I remember reading something like that. The U.S. government supported the American
No, we just went by the document. According to the document, the American Colonization Society, yes, was embraced by the United States, but it was an NGO. It wasn't the government of the United States of America. Not for the record.
So then that go to the town hall. I think there's another caller there. I want to get to that caller quickly. The town hall. You listening to your president saying to the people?
I listen to him.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I listen to him. All credit to him. He's learning how to read now. I think when he started before, he was at 10th grade level in terms of reading. But it looks like he's reached between 10th and 12th grade now. He can read now.
So he was
the only credit he gets.
So he will soon graduate, huh?
But but there's nothing genuine or genuine about the things he said. You already elaborated about those things. I only be, knocking the hammer on the head continuously.
Right.
He left the country for 48 days. At the time when the country is in chaos, is in crisis, ranging from census to food, even money. He left and not look back. And this man will tell you he's for the youth of Africa. I know an African youth are making fun of it every day in Ghana and in Nigeria. They got videos making fun of this man. How can he come out and say he is standing up for young African people? But yeah, let me let your next caller come on. But my message to the people of Liberia, America have never, ever been your father from time immemorial. In fact, America even refused to give you independence. You had to go through the British. The British were the ones who give you independence. America only accepted. That is the first thing. America bringing those people back to Liberia was not because it was claiming a territory. In fact, those people wanted to be under the United States, just like other islands around here, like Puerto Rico and other places. The United States refused. Liberia has no strategic importance to the United States. That's why the United States is in Djibouti. And not Liberia.
And finally,
Liberia holds no importance.
Finally, you have to end your history lesson there. Do you agree with President Weah or not that he is the best for Liberia? And what's going to happen next election is to give people their 7%, their 2%, and 28%. Is that what they're going to get? Finally, please be brief.
Let me just say this finally. Whether Judge Weah is right or not, I know that's a silly statement. My hope is on the Liberian people. Anthony, me and you, whenever we go to Liberia, we'll have a round trip ticket, right?
Yeah.
My lights are on, my water running just like yours, and your job will be here. Even if your job is not here when you return from Liberia, you can go up there in Minnesota somewhere and sign up on some kind of temp agency. They'll find you something in 1 week time, you'll get something to do. So it's up to the people of Liberia. You see the country going, the country is plummeting. Instead of rising, it's plummeting, and they decide that they will support George Weah. Then, my man, all power to them.
Thank you.
But thank you so much. I'll be watching.
All right. Thank you. Let's go to the man, Evis Morris here. Evis, let us hear you. Your take. We're talking, U.S. African Summit. President Weah's address at that summit and then his remarks at the town hall. I'm sure you follow. Your take.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sears. And I just want to disagree with the big brother, Abuse Kamara. I think he always harps on this Liberia-America relationship. You know, I feel to say he has something personal against the United States. When he talk about strategic relationship, you know, I don't know if you ever heard about the Omega Towers, you know, and during World War II and World War One, Liberia was a strategic, you know, point for the United States. So we had a long, history with the United States, whether, you know, some of us view it as good or bad. We have. And, you know, secondly, I think when he's talking about, you know, the president reading level, people have always used this, you know, to insult the president, which, you know, some of us would agree with, but that was what the people of Liberia picked. They decided to go with George Weah, and we have to respect the people's choice. But in terms of the summit, you know, Liberia has the oldest relationship in Africa with the United States. So I think it was apropos that they scheduled him to give his speech first, you know, being that we were the first nation to formalize our relationship with the United States in Africa. So that was justified. And again, like I said, this is not something that we as diaspora Liberia should look up for because we're in America. You know, that if he said this, if he say that, if he say this, if he say that. The reality is Liberia has been weak since the war, you know. So Ali is right on that point that we're not as strategically important to the United States that prior to the war. But our history is the longest. Our ties are perhaps quote unquote socially the strongest. But the president's speech was okay. I think he said all the right things. You know, the town hall meeting, that one is our politics. I think a lot of people are going to go another direction in 2023, which would be right. You know, based on his lack of leadership. My only point is I just want to clarify what Ali was saying about the relationship between the two countries. I think historically it's been an important relationship, especially for Liberians. But overall, it's insignificant on the political landscape. But I think he's going to lose in 2023. Speech is fine. He's improving somewhat, which is good to see. You know, hopefully he can be more consistent in giving those kind of speeches to the nation. You know, but overall, for me, it's not a big deal because I think he's a lame duck. 2023, he's going to be out of there, and hopefully so. You know, so that's all I really have to say about it. Thank you for coming on. You know, we love this platform, but sometimes I wonder. I said, well, why focus on my girl? Don't come on more often. We missing you guys until weekends before we even hear from you. But hopefully, we can find the time to come on a little bit more often because we want to hear from the best platform, the most reputable platform on the internet. Thank you so much, Mr. Shield, for taking my call.
You are welcome, and we'll look in that direction. We will look in that direction to see if we can be here, if possible, every day or maybe 6 days a week, so that Liberians can continue to hear from their most respected and reputable platform, as you call it. I'm quoting you. And I believe we are one of Liberia's best in this business. We made mistakes. We might have said some things wrong, like anybody would do. Folks, this is how we will come to the end of this yet another edition of your favorite program, The Hour of Politics, and this one has been an evening edition. You always want to hear that closing from me, and so may I take this break now and give you that closing. And so, folks, this is how I will close the broadcast for today. The nation Liberia is for Liberians and Liberians only to take it where they want to see it. And the path is not only our collective contributions, It is more so our individual contributions. I don't know how you are playing your part by supporting a politician who you don't have the guts, the heart to hold accountable. Someone you don't have the courage to tell what they are doing wrong. And you give them that power to do for you. And you trust them so much that they're going to do it without your help. Then where you are wrong. It may be you, me, who said, well, I'll be in the media and talk and get criticized, but journey on. It could be me trying to say, well, I will be part of a media institution to serve as the conduit for an exchange of the debate, of the dialogue, of the conversation, so that we can all, if not get in this one place called understanding, maybe we can disagree on the how. But I said this much. All across the world, countries that are prosperous today are not only because of not only because of individuals' efforts from individuals to businesses and institutions they've started. I can argue that those nations are powerful more so because of governments that they have established and leaders who lead those governments or who run those countries. China is one good example. The Chinese educated their citizens, or China educated its citizens, or its leaders educated its citizens and empowered them mentally to be able to carry on manufacturing and do all the things that have made China powerful today. The same can be said about the most powerful country in the world, the United States of America, where I live and enjoy life, even though it's tough here sometimes, right? America has invested in infrastructure. As a country, its leaders did that. It was a serious and calculated and intentional decision that they made for their country. That is how leaders demonstrate what is called love for their country, creating what the book people call the enabling environment for everybody to be able to compete. If even the level playing field will not be level, but that it will be considerably level for anyone to compete and have the opportunity. And so when Dr. Martin Luther King said, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, something Samuel is trying to disagree with, looking at it from the African perspective, of course, we have every boot as Africans in Africa to pick ourselves up from our bootstraps. Land, young people, natural resources. We have it all. Maybe there is one thing we don't have. We are yet to get to the point where our leaders trust themselves, trust their citizens, invest in their citizens, and prepare their young, the most powerful resource that they have to do what they want to see in Africa. Can we do that? So let us bring us home to Liberia. What our leaders have been up to. What our leaders have been up to in Liberia. Have they invested so much in our country as they should compared to the investment that they've made in themselves? President Weah is boasting today that he is Liberia's best as we speak. And his reasons are roads he's building, free education he's providing. And yet we see young people in the streets, children selling cold water. People have not taken pay. They are protesting for pay. And then when a minister of government is ill or involved in an accident, in the case of Samuel 12, I was finance minister, that person is thrown outside of the country, even though they said they built for us a military hospital that it cost state of the art, and they claim that they are investing in healthcare, and yet we don't have a single medical facility to provide care for an official of government when they fall ill. So talk to me and be truthful. How are we going to get to that promised land when the leaders don't make the necessary investment in the nation? You're talking about investing in the youth? You are addressing the U.S. African Summit that the emphasis should be on the youth? That is true. But we know that to be true when you're at it, when you do it. And now when you get lip service or reading a speech written by somebody, packed with eloquence, just for you to feel good and look good. That is a disservice, and that is why Africa is what it is. That is why Liberia is what it is, because our leaders don't robustly and aggressively fight for the people who entrust them with power for their benefit. The people don't benefit. The politicians benefit all of the time. And that is the truth. That remains the truth today. And so if we are to get to the promised land, I can go to Liberia and start a media platform. Through our media platform, focus on Liberia. If the young people are not educated and not working, if the businesses are not making profit, they might not do business with me. My business will go down the drain. If I don't have electricity from LEC, if it's been cutting off, maybe my radio station will shut down some days. Who should be making that investment? The other day, the finance minister said, well, we'll wait for the rainy season so that the hydro can be able to generate more power. So we had to wait for the rainy seasons. We are operating on God's grace. That is the biggest saying in our country, Liberia, today. By the grace of God. God's grace is not just the words God's grace. God's grace is your intellect. God's grace is the life given to you. God's grace is the land that you have, the resources that you have, that you need to tap into. God's grace is the youthful population that you have to educate so that they can develop your country. That is God's grace. I don't know how these Christians understand this thing called God's grace. The good book says, surely the Lord God Almighty will do nothing except through his servants. And yet they tell me about God's grace. The good book also said, not by, he said, faith is I'm getting this thing wrong here. Dennis, are you here to help me with this Bible thing? But the point I'm making here is, if you have faith, faith is not just the word faith. You have to work to make it happen. Sorry, I couldn't help you with that Bible quote. I'm a traditional guy, and so I have to leave it now. President Weah, he spoke at the African Summit. In concluding, many people said he did well with the reading of the speech. I'd agree. But how many good speeches do we have to listen to and yet remain hungry, and yet remain undeveloped, and yet being plunged by insecurity, and yet there's no accountability? How many of the good speeches do we have to hear? If good speeches could develop Liberia, we would be in a much better place now. Samuel Doe, some people agree, was giving some good speeches. Ellen Johnson Sally gave good speeches. Charles Taylors were powerful. Judy Bryan was always saying, So we've had good speeches. Backup Matthew gave us speeches. Boyman Family gave us good speeches. Sawyer gave us good speeches. We've heard all the good speeches. That is not what we need now. We need leaders who get the business done, who get the job done. It's not leaders who tell us about sport park. Not leaders who cannot raise significant revenue, who cannot, broaden the economy. We don't need people. We don't need leaders who are beggars, begging other nations, begging other countries to build Apple. We have to beg China for money. Why can't we find our own money and do it for ourselves? But hey, we have a long way to go. Whatever I say will not develop Liberia. But the conversation is needed to get us in the right place. And so I have to leave you now with my emptiness. Until I catch you again on yet another edition of the Hour of Politics, I focus on Liberia. Remember one thing, and that thing takes us home every day. Every time we have the opportunity to meet is the song that says, we are all Liberians, and the president is right on this one. Once a Liberian is always a Liberian. Dual citizenship is the Lord of the land. So let us be Liberians. And then when you say we are all Liberians, when you say another person is position because they disagree with you politically, then it undermines your very message. But I have to go now and leave you with this song that says, we are all Liberians, and bye-bye, my good people of Liberia. Bye-bye, bye-bye, and bye-bye from us.
We are Liberians.